NIJISANJI's reputation isn't in the best of places right now. Internal morale is low. Selen's termination wasn't some one-off big event that shook the very foundation of EN VTubing, that destroyed the trust of the people towards NIJI-EN. No, it was a culmination of all their previous mishaps since the previous years, from Yugo's suspicious graduation, from the cancellation of a most anticipated live concert, from Zion Lanza's termination, who had leaked out a lot of the happenings inside of the company, the collapse of NIJISANJI Indonesia, the leaks of internal discontent, the leaks of subpar contractual and working conditions, the departure of their most influential figures. So many instances, some great, some small, led to the eventual collapse of public trust. And Selen, one of the most beloved people in the industry, being terminated was the straw that broke the camel's back. Again, the instances and story leading up to the drastic decline of NIJI-EN's reputation have been documented well in the scene. In fact, I will promote my video on the systematic view of their downfall and why this was a predetermined fate that they would eventually face. But this video will solely focus on that back-breaking straw. This video is the full story of Selen Tatsuki's termination. Selen is a very influential VTuber in the space. She is a pusher of boundaries, friend to all, a social butterfly who wants to create content and focus on fun. Selen was responsible for many of the events NIJI-EN created, as well as organized a lot of projects and events that many members of the group enjoyed and participated in. There was a time, one so recent yet distant, that Selen and those around her were happy with NIJISANJI-EN, when NIJI-EN truly was a big family. That time is no longer now. The first instance that we should have probably noticed was the blockage of the collab with Koreji Oli from Hololive. Selen announced on her stream that she was going to be collabing with a certain zombie in late 2021, only for some time later to report that the event itself was cancelled. Of course, knowing what we know now, this gives the strong implication that Selen jumped the gun on announcing the collab with Oli. She reached out to Oli for a collab, Oli said yes, only to have management say no. She probably got reprimanded for this. Of course, this was but a temporary setback, because as we know, 2022 was NIJISANJI's year. With the advent of Luxium, all issues and problems that seemed to arise from management seemed to have been worth it with all the growth that they've received. Selen was also a big part of this growth, becoming the biggest female member of NIJI-EN as well as a frequent organizer of events within and outside NIJISANJI. She was a woman of many ideas, a woman brimming with passion. She took advantage of NIJI-EN's growth by collaborating with everyone she wanted to, commissioning artists for all sorts of small but thoughtful and meaningful gestures to many of the livers, community members, and other VTubers. The anniversary surprise for Obsidia, the Lo-fi tracks that she made for the debut songs of the other gens, NIJISANJI, the instigator for 3D prospects in NIJI-EN, a prospect that evidently they don't seem too keen on giving to the talents unless they have to go through hoops to the main branch. All of this is to say that Selen was a unifier. She reported to use her own funds to make these projects. She risked her own information to pay for these projects, her own stress and time and resources to make everything happen around her. But like all times, 2022's golden year for NIJISANJI came to an absolute screeching halt. 2023 started with a plethora of drama and controversies for NIJISANJI, and Selen herself would become one of the victims. But not because of drama that she herself causes, but rather drama that was caused to her. An earlier instance of this was when Selen wanted to do an art contest for her next outfit. The winner will have their work rendered to become Selen's actual outfit, but Selen wanted to give more. So, she adds that despite only having one winner, the top 5 artists will receive a cash incentive. But then she added an extra tweet, saying that she renegotiated with management and that she apparently fought hard for it even. Originally, management wagged their finger and said she is not allowed to give back to her community and give out the cash prizes. She said that management changed the rules last minute, Quite unfair, but ultimately, Selen was able to make it happen after fighting hard for it. She will be paying for the reward out of her own pocket. Understandable, one might think. This is Selen's project, not necessarily the company's project. The way a lot of businessmen might see it is if the project itself is more so a personal thing, then they should be spending their own money to make it happen rather than spending the money of the agency that could have been used for something else. But this motion would be something sour, as we'll go further in the video. But the absolute crime here was the terms of the art contest, where they explicitly state that NIJISANJI will now then be able to own the rights of every submission. If you participated in this contest just to have fun with Selen, give her fan art that you wanted to see that may potentially become their new outfit, you just handed over your ownership of that art to them, and they will do what they may with it. May make merch out of it, designs, prints, marketing material, and you won't earn a single cent. And somewhere during this time, Dokibird, Selen's alternate account, tweeted out a simple, ominous, tired. Sometime later, Selen experienced something that pissed a lot of people off, one that might linger fresh to a lot of Dragoon's memory. On August of 2023, Selen was known for her hot streak for creating all sorts of fun and engaging activities for NIJISANJI members. One among them was supposed to be a Fall Guys tournament, and it would feature members from all branches of NIJISANJI. This was a time where heat from NIJIEN was fierce because a lot of drama and controversies has happened in the past few months. Hers was a presence and a project that was supposed to be a respite for Dragoons and NIJISANJI fans that just wanted to have fun and get away from all of that. But NIJISANJI forbade her. Selen announced that she was banned from organizing cross-branch events in NIJISANJI, with her authority limited to only EN. And while that's bad and all, there's one thing that a lot of people might have missed and some have pointed out. It's this line: "I hope you look forward to other Livers international events in the future." This essentially states that others were able to make their own international events, but not her. This ban was exclusive. This was perhaps at the time difficult to understand because after all, Selen is literally the foreman for NIJISANJI events. She pushes for things to happen. She is that guy. Why would NIJISANJI cripple potential avenues to draw in the crowd and make more money? Why would they stop someone from organizing an event that was already announced, planned, and anticipated? But most importantly, why Selen specifically? However, this punishment or burden on Selen would seem to be short-lived because a couple months later, she would host a Hololive and NIJISANJI Apex Legends tournament that would feature all branches. This would mean that whatever restrictions and rules they've previously imposed upon her were lifted. And it was a much-needed moment for Dragoons and NIJISANJI fans because even to this date, NIJISANJI was still under fire due to many heated controversies. She and Mika would even be present during the VTuber Awards, bagging the win for multiple categories. If there was anything that these instances showed, it's that Selen is someone that craved fun among all else. Outgoing, passionate about the things that she does, and involves herself in her fanbase. In late December, Selen would announce a song cover of Last Cup of Coffee by Lily Pichu, stating that this is a song that meant a lot to her. It was a cute little song, one that would feature even graduated members. It was a passion project, one where she enlisted many artists and the help of her fanbase to create. It was also somehow a little foreshadowy, perhaps a gift to Pomu because she knew that she was graduating. If this was a video game or a movie, the creation of this cover seemed like they were death flags for Selen. And with all the current happenings in NIJISANJI, the amount of graduations that were going on and was about to be announced, it almost seemed like Selen truly did have one foot in the door. However, this cute little song was then privated. Selen made a statement, apologizing and saying that management privated the song. And the most curious thing that she did here was when she asked people to re-upload the song cover since too much work has just been put on and it would have been a waste. With all the goings on in NIJISANJI at that time, this of course triggered another controversy. Why are they sabotaging their biggest female liver? Why does NIJIEN seem to hate Selen? Why do they always somehow make the wrong decisions? Why is there no month in the entire 2023 calendar where NIJIEN can't just take a break from all the drama? These were the sentiments of the people at the time. Millie Parfait commented on this tweet, A tweet that showed concern for Selen and even defended management by saying that they wouldn't just do this with the right confirmation. Millie, to give some context, has in the past fiercely insisted that NIJISANJI was not as bad as a lot of people thought. So to many people who were following the NIJISANJI drama, this was a statement they could not believe. But some more extreme individuals would even accuse her of all sorts of things, calling her names, hate on her. And I put emphasis on this comment because it's going to be relevant going forward. When this got dropped, over on her Dokibird Twitter account, she tweeted that she spent $15,000 in something, implying that she has gotten herself in a tight financial situation, so as a result, she'd have to open up merch and orders. 2 days later, in her NIJISANJI account, Selen would tweet out 2 things: that she got into the hospital because of an accident and that she's going to rest up. This had some scary implications. Selen getting into an accident after losing $15,000, having been seemingly hated and sabotaged by management itself, people feared for the worst. But then 4chan got to work, making other differences in the use of apostrophes that Selen normally uses than what the current tweet uses. This has been seemingly debunked, as Selen actually did use this sort of apostrophe many times in the past, but it is still quite funny. A day later, after Selen's notice about her cancelled music video, she was supposed to have a Lethal Company collab with fellow NIJISANJI member Reimu, Holo EN's Nerissa, and V-Shoujo's Zentraya. But she was nowhere to be found when the day came. Concerned, some fans took to emailing the official NIJISANJI account to get some answers, and fortunately for them, they did get answers. NIJISANJI responded with this, essentially saying that Selen did not have the appropriate authorizations and permissions to post the song, assuring fans that once these steps were done, the video would then be made public. But that's not what Selen said. The producers themselves gave the green light, and Lily Pichu, the actual owner of the song, has long since approved of the project. Not only that, Selen was supposed to appear in Anime Impulse as a guest representing NIJISANJI in mid-January. Her appearance was cancelled, and during Pomo's graduation, Selen's appearance was nowhere to be seen. This pissed off a lot of people. It was downright concerning and worrying to many Dragoons. They wanted anything to come out of Selen or NIJISANJI regarding her status. In late January, the patience of the Dragoons were running thin. Hashtag Where is Selen became trending on Twitter. A great amount of Dragoons protested NIJISANJI's silence, damning their practices and how they've been treating Selen. Hell, VTuber and friend of Selen alongside many NIJISANJI VTubers RPR even participated in the hashtag, his tweet serving as a great morale of support, a banner against the deafening silence of the branch. A small comfort would come, however, when a party voice pack were announced with Selen, making a little small possibility that perhaps she's not yet suspended or terminated. Yet it was not enough to quell the crowd. They needed more concrete answers. And NIJISANJI EN did give the answer indeed. But it was a response that nobody, not Dragoons, not Selen, not the NIJISANJI fanbase, and not even NIJISANJI members themselves, anticipated. In an announcement that would shake the very core of EN VTuber fans everywhere, the official Niji EN account posted Selen Tatsuki's termination notice. And this, I have to stress, is one of, if not the most terrible termination notice in the entirety of EN VTubing. Keynotes of the termination notice states that Selen has been violating rules for quite some time now. She was not following proper procedures in order to get her works and projects approved, perhaps jumping the corporate ladder, perhaps not going as protocol dictates. According to the notice, this would result to delayed payments. In general, Niji EN management points out that she was difficult to work with. But this would be partially disproven because artists during the revolt would come forward and actually say that Niji EN were absolutely terrible when it comes to payment, that Selen had to pay with her own personal account in order to finish the transactions, actually risking her private information just to get it done. The notice mentions that Selen didn't get the proper authorization required to get the last cup of coffee greenlit, even though again, Selen actually did get explicit permissions from Lily Pichu and the producer of the song. They say that they took over her account due to her refusal to cooperate, while being in the hospital, mind you, for attempted self-harm, making the 4chan speculations around Selen's Twitter account being skinwalked by management during this time true. Selen absolutely refused to work under Niji EN anymore, that her trust has long been breached. that she even wanted things to end on neutral, non-hostile terms. She was willing to sweep things under the rug because such a volatile departure would mean harming everyone involved, harming other innocent people that had nothing to do with her maltreatment. But there is one paragraph in this termination notice that had the most terrifying implications and would cause the entire shitshow. It implies that there were bullies in NIJISANJI, that she has been targeted for a while now, and that despite being bullied and got to a point where she attempted self-harm, NIJISANJI prioritized their brand image and didn't even seem to address anything about what happened to Selen at all. A few minutes after this statement, Dokibird came out with her own statement on her Twitter, stating that she was indeed being bullied inside the company, that NIJISANJI's environment was toxic and poor, and that she would finally be free. Selen did not state that she was bullied by the talents. She was being vague, of course on purpose, because in her own words, she didn't want to bring harm to everyone. She didn't want her departure to be such a shit show. It was NIJISANJI that stated talents were bullying her, not Selen, NIJISANJI. And following this, NIJISANJI's stagnating empire begun its utter collapse. Influential figures in the space stopped being silent when this all came out. VTubers, big and small, artists known and unknown, industry figures alike, they all came out in support of Selen and condemning NIJISANJI. Previous encounters with NIJISANJI were coming to light, and a lot of them implies the confirmation of a lot of speculations people have been having for a while now, such as the exclusivity clause as stated by a well-known voice actor in the space, Yu. It seemed as if many people had known and have always had known. It seemed like people have always had a negative opinion of the company. So when Selen's termination happened, it forced their hands, got them to actually finally speak out, got them to air out their grievances, and some of these were people that were friends with NIJISANJI members. And the fact that they were willing to burn bridges and shift talk down the company, the fact that they risked being blacklisted by NIJISANJI, well, it spoke enough about where their stances were on things. It wasn't just them that took somewhat of a stance in the matter, however. This is Mr. Rias's or K9 Kuro's PL, making a rather neutral stance on the thing, indicating that the reaction is expected, but there could be innocent people getting hurt from all of this, a stance that Dokibird herself also took. This last tweet is also kind of ominous. Yusan, previously Yugo Asuma, also took a stance on things. A friend of NIJISANJI, Shoto, also took potshots, more so towards the concept of the necessity of VTuber agencies. And then there's Sayu, previously Zion Lanza of the NIJISANJI group Exolel, who got terminated, and then later on exposed many unpleasant facets about the agency, who has always been right all along. In fact, a lot of people, including myself, believed her, but there were just so many others that didn't. Many VTubers voiced their support for Selen, but I don't think I've seen one voice support Sayu when it happened to her. Perhaps because at the time people were too afraid or just didn't know that much of the inner workings of NIJISANJI. Perhaps because Sayu would then be labeled as a problematic figure after the whole drama, but whatever the case, Sayu has been vindicated in the eyes of many. And I hope that there is a lot of support from her fans, and especially public support from other content creators towards her going forward. Many others, even far outside the VTubing industry, voiced their opinions. Most critical, Asmon Gold, even the Indonesian Wiki Twitter page, threw their jabs. This is a stain in NIJISANJI's history that no one will ever be able to erase. But that's enough about the big VTubers. Let's talk about the fanbase reactions. To say that Dragoons were angry would be an understatement. They were willing to burn down the world just to catch NIJISANJI EN in the flames. Some fans would edit out the wiki to include NIJISANJI in the Black Company definition, or edit out his wiki pictures to make fun of Riku Tazumi. Selen's moderators over on YouTube and Twitch actually put up a waiting room where they would openly promote Dokibird and air out their grievances against the company. The Selen Discord server would rebrand into becoming the Dokibird Discord server, and from this came two popular hashtags: Sink the Yacht and Freebird. For some context about the whole Riku's yacht thing, it's hard to pinpoint where that originated from, but 4chan or 4chan adjacent figures are to blame, I would imagine. This comes from the fact that Anycolor is the most profitable VTuber agency in the world right now. They make more money than Hololive and VShojo, and that is due to their many talents and the fact that they take a massive cut of their talents' revenue. But they reinvest so absolutely little into the agency and talent themselves, leaving people to question where is that money going. Unlike in Hololive, where it kind of seems evident where the money that supportive fans throw is at the very least reinvested to make the lives of the talents easier and make productions of content much more convenient, like the 2.5 billion yen 3D mocap studio that they just set up. Unlike in VShojo, where the company takes very little from the talents themselves while giving them the most freedom in any agency out there. With that in mind, a lot of money is obviously going to Riku Tazumi, the CEO himself, because he is the biggest shareholder of their company and as such, holds the most money. As such, people just meme that he spends that money on useless shit like yachts instead of NIJISANJI itself. The chaos was almost enjoyable, the memes just as hot as the fire happening over in NIJISANJI EN space. One witnessing this dumpster fire would feel bad that they found the entire thing almost enjoyable, laughing at the memes, reveling at the collapse of VTubing's most notoriously terrible branch. However, what made this worse was literally a day later, they would launch a merch line announcement. Extremely tone deaf, the people are literally revolting and they launch a fucking merch line. Money was all NIJISANJI cared about and that was evident. All this backlash, all this hubbub. Well, it shook the faith of certain sponsors and certain community members and certain investors. Like Height, a custom PC company who had created a partnership with them. With all of this happening, NIJISANJI needed to control the damage, control the narrative to assure some investors. So, they posted out a statement, assuring sponsors, investors, and people that actually mattered to the company that the whole ordeal wouldn't affect them financially, saying that the impact of the entire drama was negligible. This word, negligible, pissed off a lot of people. But what they said is not what their stock prices say, because when the termination happened, their stock fell down quite significantly, and their stock is still going down as of the recording of this video. Interestingly, while this all happened, Japanese sentiments were the opposite of the EN sentiments. While some of them are in support of Selen and feel bad for her, others would say that the rules should be enforced, rule breakers thrown out, and all that sort of stuff. But the unfortunate part here is, again, like what I said in the beginning, they don't know the past context of the happenings in NIJIEN. They don't know that this company has been down the shitter for the past year. They don't know about the leaks, a lot of the things that has been happening inside of it, the discontent, the poaching, the leaving, the anger. But all of this aside, the party that were on the receiving end of the drama was not all too happy. Vanta Crow, a new member of NIJISANJI, would also have his birth date on the next day. A lot of NIJISANJI livers bled some subscribers, a lot of memberships were cancelled, the most stalwart and vocal NIJISANJI fans folded. A lot of livers took breaks from social media. Whether or not they were told by management to step off of Twitter was debatable, but at this point who could honestly blame them? It was a bad week for NIJISANJI, the innocents just generally down. However, the guilty was what people were trying to find and expunge from the agency. In their rage, people took to targeting certain livers for suspected involvement in the bullying of Selen Tatsuki. Specifically, they were looking at multiple people. Vox because of favoritism and him praising management, Luca because he also defended management, Elira because she's suspected to be the leader of a clique, and most importantly, Millie and Enna. The reason why people suspected Millie was because, as I said, she was very quick and fierce to defend NIJISANJI in the past, and she also made that comment under Selen's post. Enna has a history of acting what many people consider the mean girl archetype, and she is also suspected of being one of the leaders of the clique. There is also a particular rumor that originated from 4chan about a clique within NIJIEN, a clique that management favors above others. While I cannot prove or disprove the existence of such a clique, what's more important is that NIJISANJI has been taking a lot of criticisms, constructive or otherwise, because of this rumor. The thing about 4chan, you see, is that they're more perceptive than most for better or worse. In fact, the exploits of the users in that site are well documented across the internet. While there are many instances that they were proven wrong, there are also too many instances where they were proven right, and the clique was a gamble of a speculation that many people believed in. Cliques do exist in the industry though. Some cliques even control some parts of certain communities. And in NIJISANJI, with the pettiness that was shown by management, the behaviors of some livers, and the tendencies of some groups, the clique speculation may hold more water than expected to many people. What did not help was a membership stream that Enna did some days after the whole ordeal. Now, I can't show you guys what was said in there due to possibilities of being striked, but there were things said and shared in there that was taken out of context, with a certain phrase coming across as tone-deaf to a lot of people, especially given that someone just attempted self-harm because of all the bullying. Now, the contents of the stream itself isn't as bad as a lot of people say. It's not the damning hard proof that a lot of people claim it is, but regardless of what I think and what other people would point out, it was enough to convince a lot of people that they were the perpetrators. Regardless if you believe that the speculations are real, this was a problem that NIJISANJI themselves caused. If they had just worded that termination announcement properly, perhaps if whoever made that termination notice was properly trained or were just familiar with the industry or knew what they were doing, perhaps this wouldn't have happened. I pin the blame essentially on the NIJI and management. However, in terms of leaks and rumors, this was not the only thing that happened, because there was an entire saga of leaks and screenshots that got over on Twitter and 4chan, and we'll get to that later. When the disaster was unfolding, Dokibird brought up the waiting room for her YouTube channel, asking for people to spread word that she's here. It was poured over by so much love and support, and the vitriol that came over from Selen's channel became anticipation when they migrated over her new channel. When she got live, all expectations were blown out of the water. She breached 127k people, reaching 500k subscribers within a week of the termination. These are far, far beyond the extraordinary numbers for an indie. In fact, these were Hololive numbers, and I think this is interesting because this just goes to show how much the entire community, not just NIJISANJI fans, all collectively decided to support her. Hololive fans who otherwise wouldn't have visited Selen, casual VTuber fans who aren't at first interested in NIJISANJI anyway, they all gathered for this one victorious return stream. And it was a stream that humiliated the NIJI branch. These were numbers that no one in the branch reached. This was traffic that was impossible for a NIJISANJI EN member. In the stream, she said some things that looked damning on NIJI EN's part, like the fact that she lost $200,000 on projects for NIJI EN but made zero profits. Now, personally, I believe that a talent, if they have a personal project that may not necessarily involve groups or a large part of the agency, these projects may not warrant a funding. But the problem is, some of Selen's projects got cancelled, and some of them she had to personally fight management for, like the art project. And her events are literally the highlights of NIJI EN's history. Vox had to sponsor some of her events because she lacked the funding. To me, at the very least, the agency could have partially funded some of them, or actually invest in Selen, actually kept track of what she was doing instead of being unsupportive and neglectful. In any case, because of the debacle, Dokibird has just achieved the absolute biggest indie debut in the entire industry of EN. Her DMs bombarded, her management replaced by someone who was actually competent and actually cared for her. Her merch shop reopened. Her money, content, career, all finally hers. She would make one last statement about the matter by telling people to please not harass and bully anybody. But of course, the drama doesn't end here, because we still have the aftermath of NIJISANJI to talk about. Suffice to say, when she left NIJISANJI, the Millie and Enna speculations and harassments weren't the only thing that transpired, because a lot of alleged leaks came out on Twitter. Regardless of it's true or not, it has done further damage than what was necessary. There is a person in Twitter who claimed to have been friends of certain NIJISANJI members. She made a certain post, and the important part there is that 1. There was harassment, 2. There is favoritism in the company like we've always known, 3. This user has a history of being Luka Konishiro's mod, 4. There is no basic PR training leading to a lot of announcements in the agency to be as bad as they were, 5. There is no structure in the branch. But then she mentioned something interesting, that apparently a person in NIJISANJI is manipulative, abusive, refusing to acknowledge her as a human being. Then the poster, Raviel, got accused of this. that she was trying to out this NIJISANJI member because he pulled out her mod privileges and that she was malicious, a grown woman who divorced her husband to groom a Niji liver. But then that confirms that Raviel and this NIJISANJI member does have an authentic past relationship, doesn't it? Regardless though, it seems like our issue is that this is a person who groomed a young Luka Kanishiro a while back, is herself a bit of a menhera, and has a ton of seemingly inappropriate screenshots that, if true, make her look bad. And while I don't necessarily excuse her of these things, the fact of the matter is, even though her view is skewed and we should take her stances with a bit of salt, her words still hold weight. Nobody is denying any of this didn't happen. Only some details and the angle of the story. So, it did happen. Whoever they side with just has to be different. In her post, she accuses Luka of multiple things. That he's an impulsive liar, a manipulator, a narcissist. She worked on a lot of Luka's projects, helped on key parts of his streaming career, like making his overlays, scheduling, scripting for his work, commissions, managing, a whole slew of other work. She gives a bit of a background on how they met, and some of the details don't line up with what people were saying, but suffice to say, she's been helping Luka for a long time. However, when Luka got into NIJISANJI, his compulsive lying got worse apparently. His actions contradicted his own words, the boundaries they set up with each other were inconsistent, and as their friendship continued, they became more abusive and toxic towards each other. That all the stuff that people said about her, the sexual misconduct, all the nasty things was not true. That before NIJISANJI they had a great relationship, but that changed as he grew in NIJISANJI. The problems that he already had prior became worse, the ego, the lying, the attention seeking. The money got to his head. And then she drops entire screenshots corroborating what she just said, saying that this will be the last time she'll talk about it, and these evidences actually make both of them, but especially Luka, look really bad. This was all real. The details and angles were debatable, her circumstances make her an unreliable narrator, but her connections to Luka was real. All of this was real. And how one may look at Luka and the rest of NIJISANJI will be all up to you. But in any case, if you do wish to view the full thread, link will be in the description so you can make your decision on the matter yourself. But another supposed leak was something that actually found the notice of the livers, the Aster and Scarlet conversation leak. There were screenshots being tossed around Twitter and 4chan, with the contents framing a scene that Aster was being verbally unpleasant towards Scarlet. You may pause this video if you want to read through the whole thing, but in any case, this was immediately followed back by Scarlet and Aster making a coordinated tweet with hearts with their respective color schemes, implying that the leaks are untrue, but if it is true, they are on good terms now. They would even go on a stream and do a little something together to ease the rats. But a lot of people also pointed out the unlikelihood of these screenshots being false, so right now NIJISANJI fans are keeping to themselves, portraying this as just more false information from 4chan while many buy into the rats, and pointing out that faking these screenshots is something that's difficult to do with the time frame it came out and all the hoops they had to go through. But the reason why I'm telling you all of this is that what's happening in NIJISANJI right now is bad. It's more than bad. A lot of things are coming out, grievances from people that the livers have wronged, dirty laundry being aired out. True or untrue, the reason why people believe these leaks and rats was because 4chan has been right about NIJISANJI and VTubing a worrying amount of times. Pomu being graduated, the skinwalking that happens in their social media, being made to lie about their circumstances, harassment within the agency. 4chan also actually does contain a lot of leaks that came out from insiders, especially from NIJISANJI. The fourth missing member of Crisis, the planned graduation of big talents like Mista and Nina, the growing discontent among many livers, the migrations to VShoujo, the livers actually not receiving their play buttons. What this does is set a bad precedent. If people get the idea that 4chan is always right about the rats and leaks, then people will take their word with a lot less salt, and it's ultimately something that's bad for the industry. And while I ultimately don't want a future like that for the VTubing industry, I do want people to be a bit more critical and harsh about the things that they see. I can't say I blame the people for being completely cynical. I blame NIJISANJI. They set these precedents. They proved their detractors and haters, everybody with a semblance of a negative opinion towards them, correct, and they proved it correct in the worst way possible. Their miswording was what caused all of this. Their incompetency was the reason for this disaster. The drama tubers, the news tubers, the haters, quote unquote, the people that have long sniffed this shit out for quite a while now, they're not responsible for this. They didn't poison any well or muddy any water, or at least wasn't the main reason for it. NIJISANJI did this to itself. What everybody did was call it out when it happened, and now everybody was laughing at the fact that the branch was set on fire. But just when you think that this blaze shall last a little bit longer but, eventually peter out, the fire became an inferno. On December 13th, there was an announcement from Illyra Pandora and the NIJISANJI management. It was an announcement that was retweeted and promoted by a lot of NIJISANJI members. Fans were anxious. Originally, some people even refused to believe that the talents themselves tweeted these out because again, as we've established, the management takes over their accounts whenever they please. Accidentally or intentionally, this stream would happen at the same time Dokibird would stream. So it got a few eyebrows raised, and during the waiting room, people were anxious but still supportive of the group. The more they talked, however, the less credible, the less believable, and the less supportive the fans became. This 15-minute stream had a couple key points. That Selen gave management a private legal document containing the private information of a few livers as part of their legal pursuit. And it had names that people speculate are those that bullied her off the branch. The reason they made this public statement was because the members were afraid that the document would come out and become public, and it had apparently untrue things. They even name-dropped Millie, Anna, and Illyra himself. Vox would also then state that this document was thoroughly reviewed. The other point is that Selen was apparently difficult to work with a lot of the time, and that everybody tried to help her the best they can, and that she voice recorded Vox without his consent in order to get proof of favoritism. Vox even tries to imply that there is no favoritism in NIJISANJI. And one last key point is that the reason the last cup of coffee got privated was because it featured ex-NIJISANJI livers. When this dropped, all hell broke loose on NIJISANJI. The anger towards the company has never been fiercer. People all over were boycotting the branch, massive waves of unsubscriptions. Illyra, Vox, and Ike, the host of the announcement, caught themselves the most flack. Why did they volunteer to be the branch's meat shields? Why does NIJISANJI keep making the wrong decisions? And when this dropped, Dokibird had this to say about it.
But anyway, there is like a lot of stuff going on. Also, a little bit of a note for those who are wondering. All I will say is that I will put up another statement because I believe there are some lies being told right now, and I have further evidence and proof later on. There will be a future statement being published by me later on that will further support my evidence. There is a lot of slander and a lot of lies going on right now. I'll be publishing a future statement in the future regarding it, which I have evidence and receipts as well as backed up by my lawyer. And regarding a document, there was a signed legal consent between me and the management that it was just going to be between me, my lawyer, and management. But the fact that they release that to others is considered illegal because that was not supposed to be seen by anyone else, and it was signed by me, my lawyer, and other lawyers. I can say this because my medical history and my medical documents and everything that me, my lawyer, and other people that were involved with, it was all signed and agreed upon. I do have more evidence and more receipts and more statements later on. That document also has private information regarding me and regarding things that should never have been public to anybody else but me and my lawyer, and was going to move on and everything and was never going to address this anymore. But because they've decided to address it, even though I wanted everything to be over with, that is not my fault. Because of this, I will have to respond with a document that my lawyer has written and I have written up just in case something like this did happen. I prepared something just in case, but I was going to keep it quiet and keep it private, and because that has happened, that means that I am now required to release my story and release my statement. I'm very, very saddened that my privacy was violated with this, so I try to leave on as good terms as I can. I'll also say that I've heard slander about me behind the scenes and outright lies being told about me, but what they do not know is that I have receipts that this proves a lot of things that were said about me behind the scenes. It's very unfortunate that I had to make that public, that we'll have to make it public later on. I really do thank all of you guys for being here, for believing in me. I just got a friend that messaged me that they're there for me with all this happening. So it's really reassuring to know my friends are still there for me after all of this. It's really sad because I was really looking forward to Neopets, was really looking forward to moving on and rebuilding myself. It really says a lot though. People would try to bring down others when people are ready to move on. It really says a lot.
I would now then like to address these points because they've been argued and torn apart by the entire community. The private legal document is strictly for the lawyers and parties involved to be passed. They were not supposed to be shown to anybody. It was supposed to be just for the lawyers. It's a private legal document. Of course there's gonna be private information in there. Even if there are things in that document that you think is untrue, that is now up to the lawyers to decide and prove. Not you, not everybody. But for some reason, this got shared to people. For some reason, people in Niji were scared. What, did NIJISANJI management scaremonger them? The stream provided soft confirmation of the speculation, namely that the people named in the lawsuit like Elira, Anna, and Millie were the bullies. If this is untrue, then they still fuck themselves over bigger than they already have. But if it is true, then boom, we have our bullies. The part where Selen voiced recorded Vox was something that was a bit more nuanced of a subject. In Canada, where Selen resides in, this is entirely legal. But even if it is legal, the morality of it was a bit questionable for some, which I agree with. But if Selen felt like she needed to do this to gather evidence, I feel like there's a strong case to justify such an action. Vox even tries to imply that there is no favoritism in NIJISANJI, which is simply untrue, but overall, after this statement, the branch came out worse than they already were. Over in the NIJISANJI official Twitter page, they would state that they only showed important and relevant bits of the private document to the livers and not all of it, hereby declaring that they didn't violate any privacy concerns, they say, which completely contradicts what was said in the stream earlier, as again, Vox himself states that he thoroughly reviewed the document. That just does not happen. And then in comes Dokibird's manager, leaving a very succinct but sharply toned implication that this will be used against them. Now, a lot of people speculate that the Alivers were perhaps forced to do this. It happens sometimes. Lots of people were convinced of this fact, even though Elira said she volunteered that the stream would be held on her channel. So, which is true? Quite honestly, only the future will tell. During the chaos, the CEO of NIJISANJI himself, Reiko Tazumi, the subject of many memes, came out and apologized in full English, coming out finally. First, he apologized for the negligible incident, saying that it was a statement that was used to placate and calm down the investors, and that they didn't mean to undervalue the influence of Selen's presence in the branch. He admits and takes responsibility for the livers' mental well-being not taken seriously, and that some of management's actions have caused them great distress, promising that he will implement new systems and programs going forward. He also admits that the main branch literally has not given NIJISANJI any semblance of official events, meaning that the livers and the talents in NIJISANJI had been paying for their shit all this time, and the official programs that they did try to implement were cancelled. It now made sense that Selen lost $200,000. He also mentions that they've recruited great people for NIJISANJI staff for the past year, but the effects of those staff is negligible. He then states that the talents are the most important aspects of the company, which is true. Without those talents, merch, revenue, and everything would not be moving. But in NIJISANJI, we've never observed that. The talents always seemed like they were replaceable. It's why people have been so cynical and always memeing about the next waves coming out and that the next graduation was only a matter of time. It did not feel like they did this because they cared. It felt like they did this because of their bottom line. It was getting finally affected. that money was bleeding. And during this time, their stock continued to plummet. As of the recording of this video, there is a side story that some other NGEN livers did not participate in the supporting of the stream. There were some like Kotoka and Scarlet, but now we'll talk about Scarlet for a bit because she happened to be involved with the recent apparent leak, as well as liking a comment that made fun of the company. Now, people are hoping she's going to leave. In fact, they want other livers to leave. Some lament at the fact that Vox, Elera, Ike, and a few others will never be able to experience the same escape that Selen did. They sided with the company, and now that the company is burning, they might themselves burn out too. This drama caught the attention of many content creators outside the VTubing industry. Moist Critical, Mudahar, Asmongold, a lot of people are covering it and will cover it. And well, to the greater general streaming community, this seems like it's going to be the legacy that NIJISANJI will leave behind if it continues to limp and be a zombie going forward. And this is where the story ends for now, because while this is the full story of Selen's termination, it is not the end of the story of Dokibird's rise. There is a part 2 of this story. But for now, rest up, relax, take a break. This is a saga that will be written in the annals of VTubing history as one of the worst, most disastrous events in the VTubing industry ever.